Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Alena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Alena, as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. Alena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Alena Chapman.
Welcome to Magical Moments. I'm your host, Alena Chapman. And as you know, guys, this show is all about that ease and betterment in your life. And you know, I have people always saying to me, Alena, really? Do you really think I have 5 kids, I have this, I have that, I have a job, I barely can breathe, how can I have ease and betterment? Guys, you got to own it. You got to own it. If you don't own it by your own divine right, then you'll never have it. It'll just float right by you. And really, that is the nugget today. It's a simple nugget. You have to claim it. You have to say, I want all that peace and betterment, success and abundance by my own divine right in my own divine time. And then thank God or Source and say, I open my heart to it. Please fill me with all this joy. Simple as that. And you say that every morning, and you feel that light fill you. You feel that grace fill you. And all of a sudden, you'll see all that wonderful ease, that flow, that betterment start to come into your life in everything, in your relationships, in your job, in your family life, in the work. But if we don't, this is the thing. It's even in the Bible. Knock and the door will open. You shall receive. Well, we don't knock. We sit at the door and plead. We say, please, please, please. But that is need, folks. And it doesn't open the door. What opens the door is saying, I am here. I am open to it. I know it's there. I know you want to give it to me. It's time for me to open my heart to it and just accept. So guess what? Today's the day. Today is the day. Open those arms. If you're in a car, please park somewhere. Open those arms and say, I receive all that wonderful ease and betterment, health, success, prosperity, and abundance that is right there in the universe for me by divine right. I am ready to have it flow right into my life, into my heart. So may it be. Thank you. Okay? Doesn't that feel good? Don't you feel stronger? Don't you feel it just happening right away? It is always the simple, strategic baby steps that are the most powerful, my dears. It really isn't that hard. All right. Now, we are going to be talking today about relationships. Ooh la la. All right. I have a wonderful, warm, beautiful guest today who I just think you will adore her. Her name is Dana Lam. Dana started growing up in Cottonwood, Arizona. Why do I even mention that? Because I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. I love it. And she dreamed of the big city. Gosh, I grew up in Vermont. I was born in Arizona, grew up in Vermont, and I dreamed of the big city too. She believes travel is an essential as oxygen. Oh, God, yes. And is always planning her next trip to feed her wanderlust. You and me. A busy mom of 2 boys, she knows how important family is and the impact kids have on romantic relationships. Don't we all? Dana is passionate about helping couples to be the happiest couple they know. Her mission is to inspire 1 million couples to plan surprise dates, to thrive, to grow well with each other. And her commitment is to save relationships and marriages and families from breaking apart. Now, this is big right now. Well, anytime. You know, divorce is something that is on the rise. So this is perfect right now to have Dana on. And I would love to welcome. Hello, my dear. How are you today?
I am absolutely fabulous. And I love your little your guided meditation this morning to inspire
the little
and encourage
nugget.
us. So
Yeah.
thank you. Yes.
I always have those little nuggets. We have spoken before. I always love our conversations. And I have to say, I think when we have crises, we always see divorce just go through the roof. And it's crisis. Every time I hear about a crisis in a life, I see relationships fall apart. Why do you think that is?
Well, partly I think because sometimes when a crisis happens, that relationship may not be as strong because we're busy with life, family, kids, and it's so important to really take time. And I know from my own experience that there are times that I'm so busy and, we'll pass by each other and like ask a question or try to talk, but we could go months if we're not paying attention to actually sitting down, facing each other, looking at each other eye to eye, and talking to each other about what's going well, what's not going so well, what can we do to improve things, those types of conversations. And then a crisis hits, something happens, and we just snap. I think is one of the things that can happen in a relationship. Yeah.
It is funny. And kids in a relationship, it's so funny. In the old days, they used to always say, if you're going to get a divorce, have a kid, which I think is one of the silliest things in the whole world.
To save a relationship?
Yeah, to save the relationship. I even knew a mom who was doing that. She ended up with 9 kids. And I thought, what? I know, isn't that funny? And yeah, sometimes the old ways were not always the best. And so she, this is the thing though, kids can add stress to a relationship. The parenting, learning how to parent together. Oh my gosh, you come from different worlds. But then the busyness starts. Then you're handling kids. And I know people who live vicariously through their kids. The relationship just, all of a sudden, I know so many people that when the kids are grown, they're saying, who's this guy? Or who's this woman that I'm living with? What do we have a relationship still? Do I really still love this person? And
kids are definitely romance killers. They are not romance enhancers. And it's so important to have balance because, of course, your kids are important and you love them. But I think you should also show your children by example what it's like to have a great relationship, because I think most of us maybe didn't have a good example of what does a great relationship look like in today's world, because it was so different a long time ago. People got married and had children and families,
right away.
The purpose, right. And because they needed to for maybe financial purposes or reasons.
Working.
Take care of the farm.
Yeah,
right.
In the old days, yeah. It was taking care of the farm.
And now we get into relationship because we want to be married or be with our best friend, our confidant, our protector, someone who has our back, someone to travel with, someone to have. I mean, it's such a huge, it encompasses a large part of our life, and it's completely different than it used to be. And I think we need to redefine what that looks like today, and how do we sustain that and keep it going to have our happily ever after.
Yeah. So we've talked about crises, we've talked about children, which can be a crisis in itself. But the other thing I see, because we're going to cover all these things, and I'm just trying to get them right. Guys, what I'm doing, I'm just getting them right off the different things in romantic relationships that sabotage it. Okay, so the third thing I see, Dana, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I see people giving themselves away. Do you know what I mean? They for instance, I had a friend who was a Harvard graduate, successful business, very successful. Then she gets married, and the guy she married, she loved dearly, but he was a decision maker, wanted to take over. She let him. She loved him. She saw herself giving more and more, let him make the decisions, let him do. One night they're going out in the car, and they're going to a place to eat, and he says, well, where do you want to eat? She goes, I don't care. Because she's been giving, just pieces of herself away constantly. And he goes, you know what? You don't make any decisions anymore. Do you see? She gave all herself to him. And then all of a sudden she was like, well, now where do I go? And then she lost herself in that relationship. And he said, but where's the girl I fell in love with? So and that happens vice versa. That also happens in the man in that position. So how that losing ourselves in a relationship, do you find that as like I do, that it hurts the relationship?
I think it really depends on, we can glean and gain new things from our partner to maybe enhance us and our relationship and make us better. But when we give all of our power away and all of ourselves and we completely meld and morph into them, I think that definitely is hazardous. It's so important that you respect yourself, because if you're not respecting yourself and holding on to your core of who you are, how can anyone else? I mean, just like in that situation you said where, she morphed so much that wasn't the woman that he fell in love with. And it definitely can definitely be a challenge. And I too have experienced that, where you can get so busy with life, or you, for example, I stopped doing yoga. I had done yoga for 5 years, and even we were doing yoga together. And then I would say, do you want to do hot yoga? And he would go, no, I don't want to go today. And so instead of going to hot yoga, I would stay home with him. And I don't even know why I did that or how I did, but the person that it hurt the most was myself and my physical condition and my body. But it's also, the being able to do hot yoga, that spiritual meditation part was so important. And so now I've realized that wasn't a good thing, and to get back into that. And it's really easy to do. I don't think we do it intentionally, but it's just easy it slowly happens over time. It's like the frog that's put into a cold pot of water that you turn it on, and slowly the pot boils and they don't even realize it. And I think
that's horrible.
So it's important to be, I know. So it's important to be mindful, I mean, it's so important to be aware of it. And the only way to do that is, for couples, we recommend doing a monthly check-in every month, where you check in with each other and say, hey, how did last month go? What do you think? What went well in our relationship? What didn't go so well? And my favorite question is, how can I make you feel more loved? And I love that, because we're not mind readers, right?
Yeah.
And you may think your partner wants one thing, and they may think, and they really want something else. But if you don't share it, and a lot of times, it's all about being vulnerable, because there may be something that you need that you feel is silly, or you may be afraid to ask it because your partner, what if they can't do it or are unwilling to do it? Then that will make you feel worse. But it's so important carrying that around, like desiring something you want to create in your life or have somebody do for you, and carrying that around is like carrying a big boulder. It's very heavy.
It is.
And even though it might be a little scary to ask for something you want, it's so freeing, and you'll feel so much lighter and better about it. Yeah. And you can do that in your for yourself also. I think it's very important for self-care to do a monthly check-in with yourself.
That is so important.
About your mind, body, and spirit, you know?
Yeah.
So this past month, how did you nurture your mind, body, and spirit? What did you do well? What could you do better? Is there something new is there a new class you want to take? Is, a new exercise routine, a new way of being, eating? Do you want to spend more time with your, friends? What's really, looking at every month, what's really important to you?
And I think that very important.
How can you make yourself feel more loved?
Yeah. The thing is, and this is true, and I don't think we realize it, it's so easy because it's a slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope. You start, you're working late, or you've got kids that you're trying to deal with, or you're not feeling quite right, but you think, oh, it's around the corner, I just got to get through this. And then before you know it, you're dropping off your meditation, you're dropping off the yoga, that's slipping away. You're just letting things go. And then before it's like all of a sudden you just find yourself feeling not good. You find yourself extremely tired. You find yourself slipping into this negative, mundane way of living, of just coming home, making dinner, watching TV, going to bed, getting up, getting the kids ready, or whatever it is you do. But just doing that habitual mundaneness, and you're not thriving.
Right. And then how attractive are you going to be to other people, whether it's friends, family, that kind of thing, because you kind of lose your zest for life. You know, it's not a good, it's definitely not
a terrible place
and
to
when
be.
you are right, and when you are thriving, and I personally have found myself in that place, you know, this past year, things have been, when crisis happens and crazy things happen and we get into that rut of weighing. I started watching way more TV than I used to, and I had a wake-up call and had to snap out of it. And now I'm doing burlesque dance classes, and I'm taking an improv class and looking into taking a Spanish class and doing things it's all for myself. But in doing that, I'm also being an example to my kids, to my partner, to my friends, family, and people really want to be around me more, I think. You know, when you're doing exciting things and have a great life and you're full of zest.
Yeah. You know what I started doing during the COVID that I really loved? Because I, too, was starting, I love those little splurges on Netflix, but boy, they can eat up your time. So I thought, well, I still want to watch my movie, but I don't want to just sit here like a sack of potatoes. So what am I going to do? So you know what I started doing? I started redoing furniture, antiquing furniture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I have been just going at it. Like, I can't wait to start the next project. This is my release. It's my creativity. It's fun. And so that is something I do, and it keeps me out of the refrigerator. And not just sitting like a sack of potatoes. So and it fulfills me.
So you're doing it while you're watching your show?
Sometimes, or I put on a podcast. I like to have something going as I'm doing it. Or sometimes music, and then you see.
I like to multitask.
Yeah, and then sometimes music, and then I'm like, the paintbrush gets very creative then. So, but I do want to go back because, you know, all of us, you know, the crises can cause a problem, and we've had crises in our lives. But you went through the crisis, and can you talk a little bit about that and how the discoveries you made about your relationship? Because I know that you guys had some problems during it, just like many, many other people. You know, how did what happened? What happened? What did you see fail?
Sure.
And then how did you solve it? Always.
Well, it's right. It's, you know, 2020. It's interesting because I know personally we thought, oh, okay, this isn't gonna last very long. One more month, and it ended up being over a year. Who knew, right? That it was going to last that long. Yeah. And for us, you know, we had one kiddo in college away in Chicago, and one was here every other week at his father's. And both of the kids came home and they were with us full time. So we went from having every other week
family.
Right. Yes. To having like a very full house.
Yeah,
and
I did too.
There was a lot of, you know, stress going on, you know, just with everything going on with politics and, you know, lockdowns, and just we weren't really fully in sync. And you know, that would have been a good time, honestly. In hindsight, we should have went to a therapist just to even talk. I think everybody probably should have been going to a therapist, you know, during that time, just to talk about your feelings of what's going on, and with everyone being so divided, just to have that release. And that was something that we really didn't do. And we also,
that's important.
Our monthly check-ins.
Yeah, it is important when we're going through a crisis, any kind of crisis, we got to understand we're dealing with our own processing of that crisis. Plus, we're trying to deal with the dynamics of everyone around us. I even saw that with my mom when she was passing over to the next life. Not only was I trying to process my own stuff of having to take care of her with a mom that, you know, I was very distant from for a long time. And all of a sudden it's relearning that, plus all the crises that we're having outside of myself. You had to deal with the same thing. Having kids come home from college is a learning experience in itself. When my oldest comes home from college, it's like, oh my God, the whole house gets turned upside down. you know?
Right.
And I just can't even imagine when everybody comes home again. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
plus everyone's home because everybody's working from home, right?
Yeah.
And then they're both failing school. So I'm hiring a life coach, tutors, so on top of that and all the day and trying to navigate, the house was very stressful for all of us. But,
and then you've got a relationship. And you're saying,
and then if you shovel stuff under the carpet, you eventually have to throw the carpet away, right? So we were not talking about or discussing feelings because I think we thought it was such a unprecedented time that, okay, this will pass. When this is over, things will go back to normal. And what happened is, things blew up instead. And we had to step back and take a break and see, how do we want to move forward in our relationship? And we could have ended our relationship. And we chose to dig our heels in and do the work that was needed to rebuild it.
That is cool. And so, all right. So if that's really cool. And it's cool that both of you realized that, wait, this is worth saving. And that, and that's big because sometimes it's so easy to say, I'm done, and you're out the door. And when you do it in a crisis, it's scary because it's a crisis. You know what I mean? It's not going to be there forever. But yet it brings up such strong emotions. It brings up such strong stuff inside of us. We just want it all to end. And we throw out the baby with the bathwater,
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're looking at all the bad things and the negative things. And so what happened is, we even had separation of space, and having that separation of space, made us realize all the good things that we missed and all of the wonderful things in our relationship about why we were together, because just it had been a really tough time. And so having a little bit of separation and then reevaluating it and then looking at, well, what therapy and modalities can we do with a therapist as well as on our own to, who wants to throw away 6 years, right, of a relationship.
Right.
And,
who does?
And it's worth, yes. And when it's a good relationship, it's worth fighting for sure.
So what are some of the things that you personally did? I know you had the monthly check-ins, and those are good, but how did you even start talking again? Because that's really the first step. And a lot of times that's the hardest.
Yes. It's really being vulnerable and sharing all the things we started sharing things that we had held close to our heart that we didn't want to share. We were both very honest and authentic, actually going to a therapist once a week. And one of the things that we've already decided is quarterly. By the time usually people go to see a therapist, it's a Hail Mary, right? They're either trying to go, get validation,
bring something back from the dead. This relationship is over, or they can say, well, I tried, that kind of thing. So I think it's we've already decided for us, like once a quarter, where we will, no matter what, go to see a therapist just as a check-in, but also we will never miss a monthly check-in again, ever. I mean, that is something that we cannot compromise on, that we have to be face-to-face, sitting with each other, talking to each other, heartfelt. In the past few months, we've had more heartfelt conversations than we had in the whole entire year before that. That's good.
And it's really important. So it's really being honest and authentic, with that.
And you're building a really strong relationship now. You know what I mean?
Right.
With each other.
And that's what our therapist said. Our therapist said it's really interesting as hard as all of this was and as painful as it was for both of us. I mean, lots of tears shed that. He said now, because of the work we're doing, that our relationship is going to be, it's going to be at a new level, a next level that's going to be 100 times better than it was before.
It really is. Relationships really, it's always great when the good times, but it's in the hard times that you grow, but you have to be open to learning and growing and working together to build it. It's not going to happen just magically. You have to you got to step your foot forward. You really do.
Right. And Alena, I just want to share one other important thing that I'm actually, as painful as this whole thing was, I'm so grateful for it because it illuminated to me where I had melded myself into the relationship and had lost a bit of myself in that. And so that is what was the catalyst for me to also make sure that I'm doing monthly self-check-ins about what's important to me, because as you said earlier, it's so easy to go, oh, I'm really busy right now. I'll get back to yoga next month, next year, whenever it may be. And then it never happens.
And it never happens.
And so and realizing that I'm worth it and I'm important to spend the time, the money to go to hot yoga because that feeds my soul, and making sure to do those things for me to make me the best version of myself and respect myself, so that I have the right people in my life also that are attracted.
And you bring it forward into the relationship. I think that's awesome. Yes. How can people find out more if they want to find out more about you?
Oh, the best place to reach me is via my website, which is surprisedatechallenge.com. I can also be emailed at dana@surprisedatechallenge.com. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. And then for everyone out there, I hope you just grow in your relationships, but really it does start with you. And take a look at Soul Manifesto, and actually take a look at Alena Chapman YouTube, where you can start to grow, even looking at the YouTube and subscribing to that, because I have all these videos of how you can grow within yourself. Little things like, what is it to deal with confrontation? That's the newest one I have out. How do you thrive through a confrontation? So check out Alena Chapman, and it's free, guys. Alena Chapman YouTube, and give a subscription over to there. And then if you're free, look at Soul Manifesto. Our Thursday night Soul Talks is really rocking. People really like it. This week we're talking about destiny. Can you change your destiny? Everything we do is bringing you to the light. And when you have that opening and you start to open to the love that is all around you, and you're healthy and vibrant inside, that's where spirit comes. Love you all. Namaste and enjoy.
This has been Magical Moments with Alena, featuring Alena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.